By. This is my first Posscon, and very impressed with what I've seen here. I think this show is very well organized, well attended. I live in Atlanta, which is obviously not far from here, a 3-hour drive or so, and certainly will plan to be a part of this next year, having seen the show and seen the attendance and the quality of the content delivered here. Giving it, by the way, I just finished it today, so forgive me if it doesn't go off 100%, but I'll do my best. My name's Bryan Johns. I joined Digium in the fall of last year as the company's community director. In my role as community director, I'm tasked with expanding the adoption of Asterisk, our new project Asterisk SCF, both of those globally, by building and maintaining a strong community around these technologies. As well as, to a certain extent, the products that are based upon those technologies. The title of this presentation is The Case for Open Source Communications. While the presentation is intended to make an argument for open source communication platforms generically, you'll hear me make frequent reference to Asterisk. This is because Asterisk as a software currently holds an 88% market share in the open source communications segment, and is essentially synonymous with open source communications. Obviously, I am an employee of Digium. Digium cares most about Asterisk, so I'll go ahead and make an apology now for the frequency with which I'll talk about Asterisk here. I do believe, however, much of what I'll say is relevant generically to open source communications. To establish the argument for open communications frameworks, I'm going to start by establishing the legitimacy of Asterisk as an open source communications platform, and do that by sharing some of the things that the project has achieved over its history. Then we'll take a look at what's happened in the telecommunications market over the last 15 years that's rewritten the rules by which vendors, both open source and proprietary, are made to play. And lastly, as a means of conveying the primary reasons why open source solutions should be considered for business communications, we'll look at the arguments that proprietary vendors typically levy against open solutions and respond to each of those. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's start by taking a quick look at the Asterisk project and the things that have made it the world's leading and most widely adopted open source communications platform. First, Asterisk is a very mature technology. It's been in development for more than a decade. We announced the release of Asterisk version 1.8 with long-term support just in advance of AsteriskCon 2010 in the fall of last year. And with the help of the community that builds and maintains Asterisk, we're well underway with Asterisk 1.10 that will be released by AsteriskCon 2011, the fall of this year. Asterisk has received development contribution from more than 9,800 programmers worldwide. This makes for a very well-rounded and capable software that will obviously continue to evolve and be improved in the future. Asterisk was downloaded more than 2 million times in 2010, which represented an increase over the count of downloads in 2009. It's probably worth mentioning that our download counts don't include the downloads of prefabricated distributions like Trixbox, PBX and a Flash, some of the other canned Asterisk distributions with GUIs laid over the top of them that we don't include in those counts. So the actual counts of downloads of Asterisk as software are actually probably much higher than the numbers that we use. Asterisk is very widely adopted on a global scale. Today, Asterisk is running on more than 1 million servers across the globe. That's an install base that I think any modern software company would be proud to claim. We think that that adds further testament to the transformative power of Asterisk in the telecommunications space. And we estimate that Asterisk is currently deployed in as many as 170 countries, and that further demonstrates its global influence over the IP telecommunications technology. So just a couple of quick notes about Digium. Digium was founded in 1999, roughly 12 years ago, as a company called Linux Support Services by a young man named Mark Spencer. Mark is an open source advocate and a very talented technologist. who began development of a PBX in software when he was confronted with the need to acquire a phone system for his IT support business and couldn't reconcile what those technologies were going to cost him. And having the talent that he did, he launched an open source project to build a PBX that runs purely in software. That was the genesis of Digium. Digium is headquartered in Huntsville, Alabama, which is a small southern city known mostly for its defense contracting and aerospace businesses, but is rapidly becoming a hub for smaller, more nimble technology companies. Digium is the corporate sponsor of the Asterisk project. We launched a new project at AstriCon 2010 called Asterisk SCF. SCF is an acronym for Scalable Communications Framework, and we anticipate that that technology, and I'll speak in more detail to it in a minute, will turn the industry upside down much the same way that Asterisk did to the SMB PBX market in the early millennium. Digium refers to itself as the Asterisk Company. We offer a wide array of products and services associated with the deployment, use, and management of Asterisk. This list includes TDM line cards, transcoding cards, third-party add-ons, support services, and VoIP appliances powered by Asterisk in the form of our commercial product known as SwitchVox. Digium currently has 170 employees or so. We're adding new people to our team on a monthly basis to support the growing demands for Asterisk and the products and services that it powers. So a quick note about the community. What is the community? The community can be loosely defined as the stakeholders of Asterisk. We include in the community anyone who actively contributes to the Asterisk project through development or documentation contribution, who uses Asterisk within their company or deploys it for others, embeds the technology in their product or service, or provides support or training services for Asterisk. Asterisk.org, the primary website for the Asterisk project and the home of our community, has nearly 80,000 registered members. That's a count of people large enough to fill an NFL football stadium. As I mentioned previously, the Asterisk project has received development contribution from nearly 10,000 programmers, and when that number is added to the Asterisk.org community, we're potentially approaching 100,000 people who have some stake in Asterisk as technology. Digium considers the community to be the primary driving force behind Asterisk as a technology. It's the community that makes Asterisk matter in the market. Without the community's support, Asterisk would essentially wither and die. We also look at the community to constantly improve and steer the technologies that we sponsor to make them increasingly powerful and relevant in the IP communications arena. Okay, so moving on to a little bit of history, and now that we've established what Asterisk is, the scale of its adoption, how Digium sponsors and promotes the technology, and how the community has brought us to a point of broad global recognition, let's take a look at what happened over the last 10 or 15 years or so that created an opportunity for open source communication solutions. Dating back to the birth of the private branch exchange, the PBX, all business telecom gear was based in hardware. All aspects of connectivity and call routing logic were implemented via hardware switching. This aspect of the market's technology brought with it a one-to-one correlation between lines and ports on both sides of the equipment. The importance of this will be discussed in greater detail in the next slide. Up until the last 10 years, the only industry standards for business telecom infrastructure were at the carrier layer, where you could say with a reasonable amount of certainty that a phone company's services would be delivered via one or more of a handful of broadly accepted telecommunication standards, such as PRI, as an example. At the PBX and beyond, almost, if not everything, is proprietary, dating back a decade or so. Once you made a decision to purchase a particular vendor's PBX solution, you were adopting that vendor's standards for telecom within your operation. And those were in stone until you made a decision at some point in the future to buy a different PBX. But basically, your PBX vendor wrote all the rules about how that equipment communicated both with the carrier and with equipment on the other side of the PBX, handsets and the like. So on the last slide, I said that the one-to-one correlation between lines and ports on both sides of a company's PBX was an important point. Here's what I meant by that. The one-to-one design created an incremental revenue model for telecommunications vendors upon which they all became very heavily dependent. First, phone companies structured their service offerings around port capacity. You could buy one-off analog lines, but that quickly becomes cost inefficient at scale as your line requirement grows. You could buy one or more PRI lines that would deliver you 23 channels, concurrent channels of two-way voice service, but only 23. If you need that 24th line, you either need additional analog lines or a new PRI. And as you look at the impact of capacity increase requirements at the PBX layer, that new PRI will require an additional PRI line card in your PBX. That new PRI line card may or may not require a new chassis for your PBX, depending upon how many chassis slots you might have available in your existing PBX. On the desk side of the PBX, expanding capacity might bring the requirement to acquire a new 8-port station line card, new ports of voicemail, and certainly new handset equipment. This capacity-constrained design creates what I'll refer to as a line dynamic, where all solution sizing, whether carrier side or company side, is defined by lines. Of course, all this capacity expansion would have to be performed by a qualified interconnect, because nobody in your company has a clue how to set up or configure any of this proprietary stuff. The manual might as well be in Egyptian hieroglyphics.